Very good morning to you. Thank you so very much for staying with us here on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and it's with a huge delight we welcome you to the first weekday edition of A Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agmofrebe.
And I am Priscilla Obasi. I'd say, has it been ages?
Not really, maybe a couple of days in between.
It's been some seconds, been some days, but I'm
Right.
good to be back.
It's been about, 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks? Yeah.
Wow.
2 weeks, yeah.
Time flies, really.
Indeed, yeah.
Priscilla, it's good to see you, I must say that.
It's good to see you too.
Right.
I've not done this in 2 weeks, so it's,
happy New Week to you.
yeah, thank you, and happy new month.
Right, it's still new, just the fourth day.
Fourth day of the month.
Right.
And
But this is not your birth month, is it?
no, it isn't. It's my husband's birth month. It's my son's birth month.
Can you imagine?
Yes, it's a month of celebration for me.
Now, Priscilla, I am afraid I'll have to tell you that you just made a pledge, whether you know it or not, to our viewers that you will bring them chicken nuggets, you bring them organic juice. What else are you adding? Of course, water goes with it, no doubt.
It depends on if I am defecting to, if I'm going to join a new party, because that seems to be the way. So
You need to tell us that on X. You can't be sending it on Global Morning. You go to X and you post it.
Well, maybe you keep your fingers crossed, because I will be,
All right.
I'll be on that space.
That's a way of saying you have some political ambition. But I mean, am I really surprised? It's 2027 just ahead, and everybody's throwing their hat in the ring one way or another. But quite frankly, a lot has changed the last few days. Peter Obi probably is one way to start the conversation. A man who said it's with a very heavy heart. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, really, not verbatim, that he has decided to say, look, it's still not working. The same demons, for want of better words, that haunted me in the Labour Party.
My life.
Right. I mean, village people, pro-max.
It has to be.
Yeah, they are here again in the African Democratic Congress, ADC. I thought we were done and over with all of this, but it looks like these people have the addresses of all the political parties. Yes, there are speculations that it's going to end up in NDC, a party we understand has its leader as former Bayelsa State Governor, Senator Seraki Dixon. But some people are also now saying that, look, the NDC has its own conflicts. They are also struggling with some provisions of the Electoral Act 2026 and so on and so forth. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, former governor of Kano State, the founder of the Konkosia movement, is also saying that there is no news, there's no development regarding any realignment within the ADC. And the speculation heightens at the level where the talk is now about Peter Obi and Rabi Musa Kwankwaso moving to another party, which they say it's likely going to be the NDC, and from there they want to launch their campaign, presidential ambition, where Peter Obi will be the flag bearer, and of course Rabi Musa Kwankwaso will be his running mate, and so on and so forth. In the meantime, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says, look, for all you who think I'm giving up on this ambition of becoming Nigeria's president, you have another thing coming. You have to think again. As a matter of fact, I'm on my way to the United States. I'm going to interact with senior officials. Who knows, maybe find a way to meet and engage with President Trump to intimate him on the situation that is ravaging their country, from insecurity to hyperinflation and other turbulence in between. So you realize that it's already a tough fight on the opposition front. In the meantime, in the middle of all of this, former Rivers State Governor Chibuike Rotimi Amechi says that, look, my own supporters are decent, they have a different stock, they have their brand going and working for them, they're not like Peter Obi supporters, they're not like those in the other base of Kwankwaso, the Kwankwasia people who abuse at every turn. My people are very decent, and so on and so forth. But in all of this, are we talking issues? Are we raising the concerns that every Nigerian is bothered about as it has to do with 2027?
Well, first of all, I think it was actually everywhere over the internet that His Excellency Peter Obi and Kwankwaso has officially joined the NDC. I think I saw a clip of them receiving their membership card in the NDC.
I hope nobody wakes up tomorrow and says it's AI.
A membership cap.
Right. Okay, there's a cap to complement.
There's a cap to complement the card.
Right.
So I saw that video, and I mean, I think I saw all of this coming, if you ask me. with the whole drama that unfolded in the ADC. People would definitely want to come for a Peter Obi artist. Also, continue with that popular phrase of why do you keep jumping from party to party? But I think all of that should be it should be a national anthem right now. It should be something that Peter Obi has gone past, because maybe as at when he joined the ADC, maybe it got to him when people would bring up that line over and again to say, but at this point I think he has gotten used to it.
So he has grown up those skin.
Exactly, he's on board. And we are talking about Nigerian politics where it's basically about interest, right? Everybody is pushing for their interest. It was also at the same time Nigerians, were looking forward to see a figure like Atiku Abubakar play the big brother role,
the other statesman
role. But Atiku is saying no, I don't want to be an elder yet. I don't think I'm that old. I can still do this. I need to throw my energy into fixing Nigeria. So it was quite dramatic, if you ask me. Coupled with the court case, we saw that over the weekend ADC finally got reinstated back on INEC's good books. When I saw that, finally, let's see what comes out. And then we see this coming, afterwards, and my fingers are quite crossed, because this year's it has never really been like this in Nigeria's political landscape. I think as we evolve, as time passes, things will get new. People will get more aware. The good thing is, or do I even call it the good thing? Nigerians are, these people have a way of just making unpopular parties become popular. Right. Nobody really noticed the NDC. I think there's something strategic about the names that they choose to pick as their party. Something that has to tally with maybe the ruling party. It has to have the P or the D or
the C,
or the C in it. So it is a strategic choice. I also heard that these guys offered them, they welcomed them in. They said, "Come, don't worry, leave the ADC.
We've got your back.
We've got your back. Just come together." It's also coming at the time where INEC's deadline to moving from party, is
the window is shortened.
The window is shortened, so it's quite strategic. Peter Obi is quite confident that this very period will prevent any kind of mishaps that used to happen with his former parties. He also, like you said, he also stated that those guys that came after him in the Labour Party found their way into the NDC. So I'm wondering, is this new party, or maybe the NDC, maybe not a new party, but are they going to have some kind of guiding rules and regulations to accepting members? Because somehow you just see that the party is infiltrated. I know an ADC guy, a vibrant ADC youth, sometime last week that was part of a youth what do I call it? Event, right? That was put up together to help foster or champion, the involvement of youth. He was actively in the ADC. At that event, he was like, "Oh, don't worry, capture me, do this, that." And then yesterday I saw his letter of resignation to the ADC. So you just know that Peter Obi is also going to pull a lot of people from the ADC into the NDC. And let's see how all of this unfolds. So there are members of ADC I don't want to speak with this morning on the show, but somehow they are still indecisive of where they are. So there's so much indecision in the air. It will cause a lot of reaction, of course. It is already causing that. But Nigerians are saying, especially the obedience, they're saying, finally, this is what we want. I mean, they are all, broadcasting the NDC, the new party, giving its link out there for people to come register. And they are testifying to how seamless, it is, or how seamless the registration process has been compared to what they had in the ADC. Right. So there is a lot. I mean, the weekend came with a lot of buzzwords from the political, from the political sector landscape. It has been really revealed.
Incidentally, I think it was yesterday that Peter Obi and Kwankwaso met with Sirake Dixon, again the leader of the NDC. Yes. And for the sort of conversation you were having, from the posture, you can almost deduce that the conversation was around him giving them orientation. You know what you do with freshers in the university. You let them know how the campus environment works. You narrow down to issues around the department, the faculty, the class, and so on and so forth, because you've been there for maybe 2, 3, or even 4 years, and things like that. That was perhaps what he was doing with them. But beyond all of that, we know that the base that Obi has had since 2022 going into 2023 general election, which is the Obedient Movement, has made very categorically clear that, look, if Peter Obi was not going to clinch the presidential ticket of the ADC, we have no business being there. For them, that was a precondition.
They said it over and over again.
Yes, and that was going to be very, it was going to put them in a very tight place. In fact, put Peter Obi in a very tight place, because you had other people who are interested in the ticket, beginning again with the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who says, I'm still very much interested in this race. Who knows, maybe the NDC now gives them some latitude in such a way that they have next to no contender as it stands right now. But the question is, when we ultimately aggregate the followers of Peter Obi and of course the Konkwasiya movement, and then we have all these political parties going into the election in 2027, what difference would that make, especially if you have, well, Atiku Abubakar in a different party or on a different platform, since Professor Abubakar says we do not have political parties in Nigeria, we only have political platforms. So we're also looking at the possibility of depleted votes as against what you could have had if all these gentlemen were on the same platform, particularly in the ADC, and so on and so forth. But from all indications, even, I mean, despite the Supreme Court's verdict of last week, the ADC is not out of the woods yet in terms of legal tussle, because as it stands right now, there are still scores to be settled, axes to be ground, as it were. So those are still challenges, and it's more than a coincidence that these political parties, the major ones, are all emerged in one form of litigation or another, and it's how they point to the ruling party. Of being the cause, of being behind their rules, is what I probably will never understand.
Well, I want to.
It looks like you understand, right?
I don't understand. Of course, if you can understand Nigeria, I think
something is
might be wrong somewhere.
We need to check it.
It can be. It's really intertwined, complex, every kind of complex word you can use to describe
it's
that.
A thread.
It's a thread. It is interwoven. There is so much complexity in understanding Nigeria. But then, the ADC right now, I don't know. I really don't know what becomes of them, really. But it's time for them to take their seats back and maybe rethink, because it's a coalition. I was quite happy when I saw them come together, to push a course.
Right.
This will definitely divide, votes, but at the same time, it is also a test to democracy. It's also a proof to democracy. Let the right man win. Let the man that has the heart for the people and the people have the heart for win eventually. So it's going to be a tough one. It's something similar to what played out in 2023. It's just that right now, Kwankwaso, and I really must commend Kwankwaso, because the alliance I keep seeing is, him being a running mate to Peter Obi. I don't know what the strategy is. A
proposition we were told he actually declined in 2023.
Exactly. So, I mean, whatever made him accept that at this point
should be commended.
Should be commended, because he is also, he's also a big...
he's a big fish.
He's also a big fish, yeah, he is. So, if I trace Peter Obi's maybe interest in presidency, I'll trace it back to 2019, of course. 2019? Yes. 2019 was when he first ran with
Atiku as a running mate.
As running mate. I don't know what made Atiku interested in him, but definitely there was something he saw in him. And that was the first time maybe we saw Peter Obi again in the political space. Yes, he had been a two-time governor, but I mean, with such relevance, he really pulled,
his weight.
In that. And of course, Nigerians were at that point when they were saying, "Oh, would rather be that Atiku Abubakar was, the presidential aspirant then," and they were comparing to it was something they compared to Buhari then, Buhari and his vice. I'm trying to remember his vice president there.
Buhari's that was Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Right, how time flies.
How time flies. So people were of the opinion that, I would rather vote a bigger thief than in Nigeria. So I'll go for a bigger thief. They compared it to something else. So was that period that Peter Obi, I'm just trying to trace his, antecedent and the political presidential race, right? That's where he started from. Maybe that struck something, maybe that inspired him. And then again, he, was beating the PDP. He pulled, he decided to run again in 2023. That was when the whole drama started, and he defected to Labour Party dying minutes, right? And 2027, we're here, moves to the ADC, dying minutes defects to, the NDC. So he's someone that he obviously has a backup plan.
Right.
He obviously has a strategy. He obviously is someone that is calculative. He knows what Nigerian political landscape can be, and also it also points to the fact that this sale, when we say we're a democratic nation, we should start democracy from our parties, from political parties, right? I see political parties selling their forms at 100 million, 50 million, in as much as we want to understand that, okay, yes, it takes a lot to contest elections.
Right? Democracy is expensive.
Democracy is expensive, but at the same time, would I throw in my 100 million naira and go for primaries that I'm not sure? There are already talks around. I'm being a calculating Igbo man that I am. I'm thinking about Peter Obi now. I want to throw in my 100 million naira, and at the end of the day,
nothing comes out of it.
So I need to spend this money wisely. Right. You understand? And for him, maybe the better option would be, okay, let me see if I can have an alliance. And of course, parties will be willing to accept it because they have, the people, they have the crowd. So I see of that as what is playing out. I know that the NDC has maybe probably promised them unopposed tickets. It has to just be the condition at this point because there's no room for another primaries.
So it has to be consensus.
It has to be.
At least the Electoral Act gives you those options: consensus, direct primary.
Exactly. So at this point, if that is not the case, then there's a big problem.
Incidentally, those are some of the problems we'll be discussing in the course of the show this morning. But we also like to remind you that yesterday, Sunday the 3rd of May 2026 was World Press Freedom Day. The theme was Shaping a Future at Peace, Promoting Press Freedom for Human Rights Development and Security. And that actually captures where Nigeria is today. Time will fail us to go into all of those, but we will highlight some of the concerns and the focus of this year for you in the course of the program today, at least before we wind down altogether. In the meantime, let's serve you some breakfast idea, and here is taste and texture.
Everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. I am your chef. Step 1. Place a clean pot on the stove and add enough water to cook the oats. Step 2. On the stove and add enough water to cook the oats. Step 2. Bring your water to a boil and add the oats while stirring gently to avoid lumps and burning. Add more water if the oats is too thick to the consistency you prefer. Step 3. When your oats is cooked, add honey or sugar, then add your milk and mix properly. Step 4. Dish your prepared oats into a bowl. Step 5. Dice your apple into small bits. Peel and slice your bananas, then add into your bowl of oats. That's it. Your oatmeal breakfast is done and ready for consumption. Now, it's all yours to enjoy. That's it on today's episode of the program Taste and Texture. Hope you will try this recipe in your various homes and hope you enjoyed the program. Join me same time next week for another episode of the program. I am Saadat Lugarba. Thank you for watching, and I'll be catching you on the next exciting meal.
That's the kind of breakfast idea that makes you want to eat as quickly as possible. But Priscilla and I do not have that luxury, apparently.
It's possible. I mean, it takes a lot to put that together.
It does, right?
Yeah, it does. It takes the mental energy
to make it happen.
To make it happen. It looks easy, though. It's not difficult. I mean, breakfast should be easy. But sometimes when you look at maybe we should have more, we should be more open-minded to, creativity, because we are stuck
with our food,
akara and bread and tea and pap and,
It struck something when you mentioned akara.
So we need to be innovative. I mean, be Gen Zs, right? So that breakfast can be interesting.
You have a wide range of options to pick from.
Honestly, so this idea is something
it's amazing.
Hello and welcome to another moment of Heart to Heart Inspirational. Let's talk heart to heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again, because of people who failed. Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people will tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. Whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder, because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them. And of course, they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. People assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful, but then during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew anything about me. When I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on Heart to Heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. You stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stabled on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head. All right? So that when you fail in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you. It's trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. Let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an instance, an illustration. For instance, a GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down. All right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it is time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right? Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition in 100 level. You get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what do you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed, I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize. Use another formula. All right? Until you get to your success. Until you get to what you want to achieve in life. All right? So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise. Come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what do you have to do? Try as much as possible, right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
All right, thank you very much for still being here with us. It's time to bring you up to speed with the national dailies. What is happening? We're starting with the Daily Trust. And the first story, of course, the trending story. 2027 calculations shift as Obi Kwankwaso joins NDC. That is about what we have. That detail is there on page 4 and 5. And you want to read up? The Daily Trust appears to be scanty this morning.
Yes, I think some of the papers really are.
So next point of call is the New Telegraph.
All right, let's see first off the one above the name masts, about 3-4 of them. Top left, xenophobic tension, 130 Nigerians apply to leave South Africa. That's how bad it has been lately. As federal government envoy hold crucial meeting, when the standard meeting will hold today here in Abuja. No Nigerian killed in Rainbow Nation, federal government. We won't negotiate with bandits, Northwest governor. So has that position changed now? Those details, by the way, are on page 27. Up above that, 2027, Obi Kwankwaso formally joined NDC on pages 2, 5, and 7. Everyone should join the party. Kwankwaso, don't go to court, Obi tells supporters. Presidential nomination, Guba forms, ADC pegs at 100 million naira, 50 million naira. Labour Party fixes 50 million naira, 25 million naira. So it's a race to see who sells higher.
I'm also seeing a funny image that has been circulating on the internet where some Nigerians have been pairing Atiku Abubakar with Kenneth Okoko.
In ADC.
In the ADC.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
It makes a caricature of the whole thing, maybe.
It does.
It does not. It does, because last we checked, we didn't see Kenneth Okonkwo indicating interest in being in the fray as to actively participating by way of standing for an office. I mean, election into an office. But again, nothing is off the table, really.
Of course.
It depends on the negotiations that might have happened behind closed doors. Who knows?
Well, let's see how it unfolds.
As they say, who know like better thing?
Who don't like better thing? I feel like anyone that even goes, into a political party goes there with a mission.
All right, whatever that mission may be.
Whatever the mission may be. And for you to be at the forefront of, this party,
Right.
talking about issues, deliberating issues.
Across political parties.
Lending your voice. Maybe there is definitely something that you have, in mind.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of time at the end of the day.
Well, one here says Q1 2026, that's a kicker. 6 banks raking 500.5 billion naira from fees, commissions. Did I hear you say banks make a lot of money? Yes, of course they do. The Renaissance movement for Tinubu, of course, that's an advertorial there. But read up details of these headlines from the New Telegraph this morning and stay ahead of the news. Next part of call is the Guardian newspaper.
All right, thank you very much. The Guardian newspaper appears with a couple of stories. First, below the nameplate, Lagos workers demand 225,000 naira as NLC prepares for wage negotiation. Details on page 3. Presidential form, Labour Party sets 50 million naira, ADC 100 million naira per candidate. Details on page 3. Atiku slammed federal government over declining foreign reserve despite 5 trillion naira oil windfall. Details on page 3. The Star story has opposition crumbles as Atiku takes Nigeria's crisis to global stage. Atiku has gone to report. There's always that guy in the class that goes to report.
Yeah, at every turn.
At every turn. So this time around, it's Atiku. Maybe he
up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Madam, if your audio is better now, you can just play.
Thank you very much for still being here with us. We apologize for that necessary break in transmission. We're still on the Guardian newspaper, and the next story, I think we started a story that has, Niger inmates being transported in tricycles amidst vehicle breakdown. And I was trying to say that it will be a case of having enough security personnel.
Right.
I always imagine how that
We feel like
that journey would be.
I think I would rather start my own analysis from, how many inmates in all did they have?
Exactly.
Right? How many correctional officers were on the ground, available? And how many tricycles did they get, really? Because those are all factors. If you, for instance, had, say, 5-6 inmates, and you had 3 correctional officers, what were the chances that they could all cram themselves into one tricycle?
And we're talking about a vehicle breakdown, so it's an emergency situation. It's
right.
It's
not like something you planned.
Planned tricycle.
So I can imagine the haphazard approach, the rush.
Exactly.
Yes, because and again, you have to. You have to keep in mind that you were heading to court. And there was a schedule, and you didn't want the judge to use you as a scapegoat.
And then what happens? What would be the sitting arrangement?
In the keke.
Would you have the inmates in the middle? And if you have enough security,
right,
then you have them sitting, because
and normally it's 3 persons on the back of the tricycle, one in front.
So what happens if you don't have enough, warders?
Apparently, you can't displace the rider.
Right? You can't displace the rider. So if an inmate is at the front with the rider, he can decide to jump off.
There's a possibility too that if you had too many persons than the tricycle could accommodate, some officers and some inmates had to wait behind, so you had to do it in batches.
That is interesting.
I think we are thinking too much into this.
Yeah, it's important to have that thought, because when you see stories like this, you just need to know how it was.
It's a picture of where we are as a country.
Exactly.
A very clear picture.
It's sad. With extrajudicial killing, IGP assures arrest, prosecution of suspects. Government. Okay, we're done with this. I think we've been able to go through all the stories. Read up details of the Guardian newspaper. Next point of call is the Daily Times.
Our top right corner has a picture of the president. Says Nigeria's 16.26 trillion naira debt burden of fiscal trap. Experts warn. PDP, Wabara set to constitute caretaker committee, conveys NEC meeting. And then the big one, 2027, ambition tears opposition apart as Obi Kwankwaso join NDC, I opposition, I possible OK ticket. What a brand name. OK ticket. All right, NRC condemns rising attacks on Abuja Kaduna trains, seeks community support. That's the Nigerian Railway Corporation. They've complained severally about all of the issues that have to do with thefts of infrastructure regarding our rail. But then again, we have to do what we have to do. That's on the Daily Times newspaper. Incidentally, those are all the headlines from the Daily Times this morning. Please take a look at those headlines for yourself as well so you can find details. All right, next is the Nigerian Tribune.
Before we go to the Nigerian Tribune, I'm just imagining, the brand name OK. I feel like Nigerians would...
Obi Kwankwaso?
Yeah, I feel like Nigerians would want to make another meaning from OK. Maybe they call it OK used.
The popular okrika.
Oh, the popular okrika.
Right.
Okay, let's go.
Just so you know, Priscilla is from the southeast of the country, so she understands these things better.
No,
Thank you for helping us provide valuable insights.
People that like to Japan, do people understand,
Okay, no, they really don't. I think they're learning from behind you, and that's a privilege, really, and we do not take it for granted.
Okay, let's leave that. Now we are on the Nigerian Tribune, and the first story above the nameplate, top left corner. Nigeria sees mixed effect as Iran's peace move calms oil markets. This seems to be good news. We hope it reflects indeed. Details on page 6. CPPE, LCCI call for reform to ease burdens of power crisis. Page 7 is where you see that detail. Outrage as commercial motorists rip commuters off despite CNG use. Well,
are we going back to this conversation?
I think we've spoken about this, and whoever decided to put this on the national dailies is a very good citizen of Nigeria.
He's a very patriotic citizen.
Very patriotic, because I don't understand how you are using CNG. We've not had a hike in the price of gas.
More scarcity.
And then you are competing
with those using petrol.
You are trying to say, oh, thank God I was, like Joseph, that was...
And you feel smart about it.
Like Joseph that saw the future of famine. I was able to save. You feel like Joseph that saw ahead. And now...
But anyway, Joseph was pursuing public interest.
Exactly.
In this case, it's your pockets you're working for.
That is the situation.
While ripping off commuters.
Nigerians would always want to console themselves, see the positive in every negative situation.
Right.
No, I am a man of foresight. It's my own way. The way God spoke to me to, plan for my future. I have done my part. I was able to see ahead and calculate by the inspiration. It's not the ordinary. It's not something that came, from the ordinary. And they make it look as if it's some divine kind of move. And
divine indeed.
They use it to rebuild and say God has blessed them.
Priscilla should be paid for her speaking. Let's have a speaking fee.
Page 7, please, if you are part of these people, I really feel like we cannot have a better Nigeria
with this sort of attitude.
With this sort of attitude and mentality. Please let us be good citizens indeed. The big story says, Obi Kwankwaso joined a NDC. Why I left ADC, ex-Labour Party presidential candidate, has something to tell you there. ADC releases timetable for primary election, pegs presidential form at 100 million naira, presidential governorship candidates to emerge through consensus, direct options. Okay, let's see what plays out. I wish every political party all the best. Details on page 24 and 25. Next story, gunman kidnaps 60-year-old man in Ibadan. Details on page 27. Articles to discuss Nigeria's security situation during U.S. visit.
He has to.
I'm just here. We have US citizens that have visited Nigeria and have gone to tell their president what's happening.
Right.
Because Atiku at this point needs to do anything again.
They are not citizens of Nigeria. They can't be more Catholic than the Pope. They can't cry more than the bereaved. So it will be more authentic, it will be more credible, it will sound much more organic if a Nigerian, no less a person than the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, interfaces with the U.S. government on this.
I agree with the fact that it will be more organic, but maybe not credible.
So you're punching that, right?
Yes, because I don't know how we are seen in the eyes of the world. They want to always tag some sort of do I call it? Maybe not. Let me not say that. But I mean, let's see how things unfold.
We are watching.
We are watching. Strike. We stand with Sanu Nasser. For Jigawa Kanu, Katsina top list of out-of-school children. Not a good one. Details on page 2. The fact that we have a vice president from Borno, should it really needs to reflect in the lives of these northerners.
Right.
We shouldn't have such figures of out-of-school
Children, right.
I think it's time for the North to strategically look for a lasting solution to this, because time and again we see them talk the chats when it comes to out of school children. And it's not a good one. Finally, we have Makinde backed PDP moves to name caretaker committee today. Drums reconciliation invites INEC to NEC meeting. I don't know how true that was, but I saw that the court nullified Wike's convention.
Yeah, the way we're interpreting it now is such that they're saying that the Supreme Court's judgments which nullified the Ibadan Convention from last year, I think that was 15th and 16th of November 2025, also nullified this one that Wike's faction held in March. All right, but you see, what some people are now waiting for is the CTC, the certified true copy of the judgment, to now be able to study and understand exactly what the imports and intention of that judgment is. Otherwise, politicians are always mischievous. They always find a way to put a spin on everything, including court verdicts coming from no less a court than the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the Nigeria Supreme Court. So at the end, what it all means is that politicians will politic, but the law supersedes all of that, because we understand that the Turaki-led faction of the party is already taking leadership, taking over, setting up systems and all of that. But on the contrary, Wike says, look, the Court of Supreme Court's judgment, this very one from last week, has laid to rest all the issues that we had. So the PDP we know today is the one led by Abdul Rahman, where himself, Minister of the FCT, yes, of Wike, is the national
leader. So right to that says drums reconciliation. Okay, invites INEC to meeting. Wabara led bots insist party won't die. Details on page 25, and those are your headlines for the Nigerian Tribune. Next point of call is Nigerian News Direct.
And it turns out that will be our last paper in the program this morning. The big one, Nigerian News Direct, it says external forces destabilizing ADC will be Kwankwaso allege. What does the writer say? As Kwankwaso hints at defection, vows to prioritize party unity over ambition, Obi dumps ADC. On the side, right side of it, Suleiman Abike Dabiri rally 10 million women support for Tinubu. So who will now be supporting the women? The men. Again, I know this is the part Priscilla doesn't like, but how do we explain this? That 10 million women are being mobilized to support a male candidate or at least aspirants, but how many millions or even thousands are we mobilizing for women?
Well, 10 million is not enough number compared to the number of women we have in Nigeria.
Let's find consolation in that. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables, better than the best.
At Erojim Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear, all crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Aerogym shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@aerogym.com. Website www.aerogymdesign.com. Aerogym. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues on social media. Today we'll be taking a look at a tenant and landlord stroke tenants, agreement and what's exploitation to in between. A shocking case of rent exploitation has emerged as a landlord exposes his caretaker for allegedly defrauding tenants by drastically inflating rental costs. According to the landlord, the annual rent for his one-room apartment was officially fixed at 150,000 naira. However, investigations revealed that the caretaker had been collecting as much as 375,000 naira. That's about 200 plus, added to it, from unsuspecting tenants, more than double the approved amount. The discovery reportedly came after complaints from tenants raised concern over the high cost of the apartment, prompting the landlord to step in. Upon verification, the discrepancy was uncovered, sparking outrage and raising questions about accountability in property management. Tenants affected by the alleged scheme are now demanding refunds, while the incident highlights growing concern over unchecked practices by caretakers and agents in the housing sector. The landlord has since vowed to take appropriate action, as many call for stricter regulation to protect renters from similar exploitation. Okay, I'm smiling because I know I've been a victim before while I was in school. Well, let's take a look at that very short clip.
For instance, you are coming in, everybody pays it. If, for instance, everybody pays January, and you are coming in around March, I'll remove 3 months for you. You are going to pay the balance between January and December. That's what I normally do, so that the next year, everybody will pay at the same time. But unfortunately, he has been doing something else. He will tell you to pay the normal thing, but he said he will pay 1 month for you, and you are paying 300. Your money is supposed to be 100 and you are in communication with him. Someone has to pay 120, you collect 400. People 500 just to move from one room to one room, 350. And I even want to talk what this other guy will pay here, will pay Kelly, from moving from down to up. This one not the HMO, just to move from down to up. Jesus Christ. Have you seen it? When we talk about, have you seen it? Moving from down to up.
And this is my receipt, so I was supposed to pay 165 and I paid 335. And to renew 250. I want 70 to be my balance. I want 70. I don't feel like that. Now you said you have to renew 250. And I bought it last year.
All right, that's it there. I must tell you that a lot of persons have fallen victim. Some persons are still yet to know or recover from that. Some persons don't even know if they are victim of this situation or not. But this is like an eye-opener. A lot of persons will start, this inquisitive nature will come up now. People will start trying to get a hold of their landlord number, because what you get to hear most times is the landlord is not in town, or the landlord doesn't live in Nigeria. So you don't even have this one-on-one conversation with your landlord most times. Well, let's take a look at some comments from social media as regards this topic. And the first comment is coming from Empress Annie, and Annie says, "This is my apartment in school. Aside from even collecting higher rent, he was frustrating the old tenant and giving tenants quick notice. He even collected 500,000 naira from some new tenants, the big boys of the lodge." Okay. The next comment is coming from D Sage, and Sage says, "That's why they never allow anybody get in contact with the landlords. They always add money on the rent, not just caretakers, some lawyers too, allegedly." All right, thank you so much, Sage. The next comment, which is the last for this morning, is coming from King Dion. King Dion says, "Honesty is such a breath of fresh air. Kudos to the landlord for exposing the caretaker." Thank you so much, everyone who dropped their comment concerning this topic. I'm not alone here in the studio. I have with me another tenant that I'm not. I don't know if she's ready to even share her view. All right, Priscilla Obasi, you are once a tenant.
What's an introduction?
Good morning, Priscilla.
What an introduction.
Okay, even if you're not a tenant, now you're
anyways,
also a tenant.
I'm a tenant.
Okay, so let's discuss.
You have to state your problem so that you can receive help.
All right.
Yes.
So this is the platform, because who knows? I don't know. Have you ever come in contact with your landlord?
Well, yes.
Okay, so your landlord lives with you?
No, he doesn't. My landlord stays in Kaduna.
Oh, okay.
He stays in Kaduna.
So,
and he has this caretaker that, although we've had I've had my own moments of because I am very thorough. So I think in my entire estate, I'm one person that this caretaker is maybe very careful with, because he knows that I'm well detailed.
He takes good care of you. He's doing his job.
He does his job well. He wants to do all of those fraud and everything. He doesn't come close to me. When I moved into my house, I noticed that some things were not well fixed. While other tenants were saying, "Oh, these are money," I demanded that this guy does it, and he did it to the latter.
Because you paid caution fee.
Yes, because I did. And then I'll ask questions like, "What I use my caution fee to do?" At the time, we were robbed, and they destroyed the doors and some part of the buildings. I followed it up until he fixed it. I mean, I'm not asking you to pay me my valuables that were stolen from me, but you have to do this. So these landlords or these caretakers, they understand people that actually know their rights and they don't mess up with them. That's what I've noticed. But if you're someone that is maybe lackadaisical, maybe you're not very detailed and thorough, then you'll be a very big fish for them. But I mean, these things happen, and every time I try to sense it, I always insist on speaking with the landlord. But
sometimes they'll tell you the landlord doesn't live in Nigeria.
He has a number.
The landlord is abroad.
In today's
most times they don't even get to let you having the landlord's contact.
Well, someone like me would insist. I've stayed in different houses, and there was a particular point in my life where I stayed in a house that was managed by a lawyer. And sometimes these landlords even have a way of, the very not good ones, they have a way of even liaising with their lawyers.
Yeah, because someone just mentioned that in the comment section too.
To also extort you. So there was a particular house I lived in with my family, of course, and this lawyer was at the forefront of discussing issues. He wanted to be, in short, but somehow
because as a lawyer you will be relaxed.
Yeah, but somehow I insisted on speaking with the landlord. I really insisted, and he connected me with the landlord at the point where we wanted to leave. wanted to maybe hand over the house to someone else directly because our rent had not expired. I wanted to just see how to recoup my money and, you know, give back. The lawyer came with all the troubles. Even in that house, I would have go ahead to do, you know, major projects in a house without agreement. You know, and they finish and feel like, and people invest so much in buildings, and at the point where they have pimped that house so much, the caretaker or the lawyer just gives a quick notice, knowing fully well that the person that comes next will pay well. You understand? But maybe the understanding of rent they had with you was a bit minimal, and you feel, okay, I've pimped it, I'll continue to pay this money because my house is not comfortable. But they can outsmart you. So it's important, number one, to be very, very detailed when dealing with house agents, when dealing with lawyers. Insist as much as you can to be directly involved with, at least speak to the landlord to know that everything is in sync. This is the money I'm collecting. If you have consent. Another thing is, these caretakers don't even raise your consent to the owners of the building. Most of them. Yes, most of them don't do that. So you're having issues around your house. You're having issues with maybe prepaid meter. You're having issues with maybe the gate. Maybe you're not having a secured environment. You need some kind of, you know, advanced security with barbed wires and all of that. The best person to speak with. There are times that you call the caretaker, he's not even responding. But when you speak to the landlord, he responds fast. So it's one of the reasons why it's important, as much as you can. You don't be careless about it. Don't feel lazy about it. Some caretakers will insist and, you know, try to dissuade you from speaking with the actual owners of the house. But as much as you can, how does Yul Edochie put it? Kwechiri. Thank you. Yul Edochie will say Kwechiri, my brothers and sisters. Make sure you stand your ground. Yes, stand your ground. Be informed. Be detailed. If you want to invest in any building, have an agreement. Write it, because you might just be wasting your money at the end of the day. Nigerians need to learn from this experience, really. All right. And kudos to that landlord. He's a very honest person. Yes. Some landlords would find a way to meet this other guy at the back and collect returns. Do you understand? And even ensure that since the other people are paying it, let us continue. Or let's get people, because most of them they feel like if you will not collect it, let's give it to some other people. As long as other people will need to collect it. And they always be desperate people. But it takes a very, you know, God-fearing person to expose such evil acts. And honestly, this is commendable. I really give it to this landlord.
All right. Thank you so much. You really said a lot, Priscilla. Thank you for your contribution to today's topic. So take home today is to Kwechiri. Make sure you stand your ground and try to get your landlord's contact. At least get one of his contact. If it's to reach him via WhatsApp or call, make sure you are able to talk to your landlord. Bypass these people sometimes, because most of them are not really as honest as you think. I remember there was one then I used to have in school. He would tell you, if anything gets bad, even when you have paid your caution fee, he would tell you, I'll get the apartment person to come fix it for you. So you can't even get your own person to come fix it for you. So he's going to get that person, and the person will charge you and you pay. This time around, it's like they have one kind of business they do, so that the person gets to give them like a token. If you pay 3,000 naira, 1,000 naira is obviously and you think he's doing you a favor, you know, by getting someone for you. You never knew that he was actually extorting money from you. But whatever it is, make sure that you get someone, at least get hold of the landlord's contact. And for please, the caretakers out there, please try to be honest. It's already very hard. You can imagine extorting over 200 plus from students. You think the landlord doesn't know why he actually puts that rent for 150,000 naira? He was actually trying to subsidize for the student, because, come on now, it's already too hard. Please, let's try to be honest, okay? All right, thank you so much for being part of today's show, that Social Buzz on Global Morning. I'll be leaving in the hands of Priscilla and Uyi as they usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. I am Ogot Kumobuno. And good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra. where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's get to our conversation on the road, everyone. The last few days have again shaped the quality, apparently on account of the 2027 general election. This has been pretty much so, particularly from the opposition standpoint. We have seen, amongst other events, former presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general election, Peter Obi, as well as former governor of Kano State, Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, moved to the NDC. Well, both parties have C's at the end. But the important thing is how that Obi had gone to X, formerly known as Twitter, to talk very clearly in an extensive post of the reasons that led to not just his exit from the ADC and now moving to the NDC, but the basis on which he has had to move a number of times. Of course, there has been, again, a reason for many Nigerians to criticize the former governor of Anambra State. But all of that won't seem to matter much now, given the fact that, as it stands today, the opposition has largely said that its goal is to ensure that it unseats President Bola Tinubu in 2027. How that in any specific way serves the interest of Nigerians is yet to be seen. However, we also understand that for democracy to be robust and vibrant, there has to be a virile opposition. Hopefully, that is what we will see in 2027. To help us find some sense and context in this conversation this morning, we're joined by Barrister Idris Waziri, himself a lawyer and the founder of United Tribes of Nigeria. Idris, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Great. I don't know how excited or otherwise you feel, given that the PRP leadership has now been recognized by INEC. We hear there had been some conflict in that regard up until last week. You want to share your thoughts on that?
Well, once again, thank you very much. INEC's recognition, or lack thereof, really is immaterial.
Really?
When it comes to internal party factions.
Across all the political parties?
Across all. So let's take, for example, now the INEC's recognition of the David Mark led ADC, right? It still doesn't change the fact that within the ADC there is all this internal crisis.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
ultimately it's their problem.
It's their problem. INEC can only just say we are recognizing so and so, but it does not change the fact that within the party there is this crisis. Now we talk about PRP and whether or not there is a factional crisis or not. There was a national convention, I think it was held on the March 28th,
right,
where Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed was elected as party chairman. The faction or division within PRP is more an ideological one, as I've told you before.
Is it different from what you have in other parties?
Yes, absolutely. There's a massive difference between what is going on within the PRP and what goes on within all the other parties. What is going on in other parties is a personality-driven and ego-driven faction or break. Okay, what we have is an internal, as an ideological one. Are we remaining a socialist party, or are we being driven into the same capitalist-led policies or whatever that other parties seem to be made of? That there's a huge difference between those two things. So are we talking about egos, or are we talking about ideology? And on that division, on that ground, PRP stands head and shoulders above everybody else in that regard. So there is a massive difference when it comes to our internal landings.
Has that ideological divide being resolved now? Can we say the leadership is pulling one rope in the manner of speaking right now?
I would like to say that we are internally, but we always look to the integrity of our leader. So now let us dissect who Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed is.
Right.
We're talking about someone who forgets that he was a retired PAMSEC or whatever, and he was the, I think, spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum. Whether or not the actions or inactions of the Northern Elders Forum, we'll leave that aside. But let us look at his politics. This is a man who, up until about a year ago, was the political advisor to the vice president. To the vice president.
Yes, right.
Now,
let's straighten out some things. This appears a bit confusing. Let's say he's a political advisor to the president, office of the vice president. Is that just a political sort of appellation, or?
I'm not even concerned with that. My own concern is, where are you coming from? What are you doing? Okay, you've done so that for me is more important right now. You are now my leader, okay? But I have to be wary of that whiff of, are you a mole being planted by the presidency? Because we all understand that President Tinubu is a master strategist. ADC already is complaining that it is APC that is causing the divisions within their political party and stuff like that. But personally, I am of the opinion that, look, we have had a convention, we have had a leader chosen, irrespective of anything right now. What our voice, what our message to the general public should be is, what are our policies going to be? What differentiates the PRP from every other party in the 2027 election? That for me is more of a message that internally we need to solidify and promote. I have watched a couple of his interviews, and unfortunately our chairman seems to be more interested in talking about how open the PRP is to adopting political individuals, heavyweights.
Isn't that what democracy is about? Inclusiveness?
No. No. I think democracy should be about policies that change the lives of Nigerians.
Driven by human beings in their numbers.
Of course, but it's not so much about, again, it's not about egos. Look at where is the most impact made in any democracy? It's not the executive. It's in the legislature, right? But in Nigeria, we seem obsessed about who is president, okay? Let's go back to Buhari and Saraki. When Buhari was president and Saraki was the president of the Senate, right? There was a clear check and balance of those institutions, okay? Because Buhari, in as much I think Saraki was APC.
Yes, it was APC.
But you see, there was a division in terms of being, today now, President Tinubu can wake up and say, A, and the National Assembly chances to A. Do you understand? So there is that unison in between the executive and the legislature. But the legislature, that's where laws are made. That's where budgets are passed. That's where you have oversight functions. That, for me, is the most important of the three arms of our government. So we, as usual in Nigeria, we misunderstand what democracy is, the principles of democracy, and what ultimately is the best interest of the Nigerian people.
Don't you think this narratives change depending on who is in power? You just mentioned when Buhari was in power and Saraki was the president of the Senate president. Buhari had a personality quite different from our current president. And I really feel like Nigerian political parties are aligning based on the ideologies of President Tinubu.
You didn't have body language.
Yes, and body language too. Yes, because they, especially the opposition, they are looking at defeating him. So they need to, align strongly to whatever it is or whatever it takes to defeat him. If your party is aligning towards, trying to receive the political bigwigs, trying to get the big fishes in the political space, don't you think it's okay, an okay strategy? Not Obi and Kwankwaso at this time, but
I'm happy that you mentioned Obi, Kwankwaso looking like marriage. Right? If we're looking at,
it's not marriage yet. It's only
looking like. But if we were to look at marriages in terms of names and personalities, that seems to be the most viable union, right? Opposition as of today, right? That combination. Kwankwaso will be Kwankwaso, whichever. Again, they haven't even decided. We don't even know who will be.
So you can even end up as KO.
Either way. Right. But the problem is this, and I keep saying that we need to move away from individuals. As to, okay, so now we're talking Kwankwaso will be Kwankwaso. What are you standing for? What are you presenting to us as Nigerians? Why should I vote? You are both governors. You both served 2 terms as governors, right? And I know more of development in Kano, right, than I do of Anambra. Okay, in Kano, when you go into Kano, you can see physically what Kwankwaso achieved as while he was there as governor. I can't speak so much as to Anambra State because I've only been there a couple of times. You know what I mean? But if we were to say what are the policies that you are presenting to us as Nigerians, right? We never discussed that. Okay, we're always talking about names, Atiku, this, and all of that. That for me is counterproductive to what we want to achieve. Look at how much suffering is going on in the country today, right? It's not about whether it's Atiku, whether it's Tinubu, whether it's Obi. It's about who is presenting the best policies, the strategies that will lift Nigerians out of this poverty that we're in today. The IMF says they're predicting 4.2% growth or something, right, for Nigerians. But is that translating to money in your pocket, a better life for you? No, it is not, because our population growth is going at about 3%. So when you do the plus and minus, that comes down to about 1.5 or thereabouts, which is poor. If you take 4.2% in terms of developed countries, right, America and the rest, it is good. When you put it against countries like India, Vietnam, which are developing countries, no, those ones are developing at 6 to 8%. So on that basis, we're performing, I wouldn't say under par, right? But I'm sorry, under average. But we're maybe on average. Do you understand? If we look at statistics under Tinubu, you would say inflation has reduced by almost half. We were at 30-something%. We're now
we're hitting 3 or something.
Right? But again, because that is not translating to changing the average man's life, those are just mere numbers that mean absolutely nothing. Do you understand? Again, food inflation apparently has come down to single digits for the first time in like 10 years. So you can see that. That's why IMF will now probably give a pass mark to the Tinubu-led economic reforms and all of that. But again, those are capitalist-led bodies and all of that. So for me as a socialist, I have to look at the two things and say, okay, look, capitalism, right? It provides growth, but for a few people. Few people feel that impact. Whereas our socialist-run policies under PRP would give you widespread growth. Widespread, maybe not as fast growth, but widespread feeling of the impact. Okay, the subsidy returns, state resources are managed, we mechanize our mining, we mechanize our agriculture, and job creation is we have job creation, we have industries coming up. So the impact is felt more under a socialist-led economy than it would a capitalist-led one. You know what I mean? These are the discussions that we should be having, not whether it's Peter Obi. This is me now, Idi Waziri, and I'm saying these things, right? And we're having these sorts of discussions. I am not Peter Obi, I am not Kwankwaso, I do not have the clout of these people, but you're not hearing that discussion from them. It's all about whether it should be north or south, whether it should be this or that. And these are not metrics that we should be.
Where does your party even stand? I know Priscilla wants to lend a voice to this, but where does the PRP stand with regards to these rotational presidency arrangements?
Again, I can't speak for individuals or the party party itself.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about it?
My thoughts are this: it's simple. Again, it should be about merit, not about
who comes from where.
Who comes from where. But if we're going to come down to the practicality of it, right? We should have a rotation, right? Rotation in a country of over 300 ethnic groups, deeply religious divides, you know what I mean? We should have some kind of rotation to give parity. But again, that is, in a way, in effect, infringing on my rights to vote the most credible person. Do you understand? If, for example, let's say Kwankwaso is the most viable candidate, comes up with these policies that I'm talking about now, right? And I'm forced to now pick a southern candidate simply because
that's where the rotation favors.
Do you understand? Then again, for me, it doesn't change, it doesn't have any effect on the lives of the people. We are now back down to satisfying the egos or the interests of a select few people, not the 200 million Nigerians that these changes should actually have effect on. You understand? So if we're coming back to rotation, even on the issue of parity, I think the South has since 1999. They've been in power for 16 years, and not only 10 because of that Yaradua. So if today's the president's argument or the South's argument is, Buhari had 8 years uninterrupted, the South should have 8 years uninterrupted. That argument was negated in 2011 when Jonathan refused to step down and was allowed to run again. Exactly. So if the North conceded that yes, it should not be that rigid rotation, then today that argument of it is our turn really should be thrown aside. Again, it should be that yes, you've had your 4 years, but there's nothing to say that we can't vote you out. You can come back again in another 4 years' time, but right now that rotation should not be the end all and be all of the matter right now. It should be that has your government succeeded or failed in changing the lives of Nigerians? And the answer to that obviously is no, it has failed, because the average Nigerian is suffering right now. So do we need a change just as we did in 2015 with Goodluck Jonathan? Perhaps we do. Maybe a northerner comes in for 4 years and he's booted back out again after 4 years. That for me, in fact, sets a better precedent for us as Nigerians, that it is not necessarily that you must do 8 straight years of uninterrupted.
And we had such a situation in the US, so why not?
That's democracy.
Yeah, it's democracy.
That's democracy. That's the ballot.
Let's cast in concrete.
Thank you. That's the ballot. Having more force over things like we have more defections, more people have defected to our party, we have control over INEC. Do you understand? Whether INEC is partial or not, we have grassroots, we have control of grassroots structure and all that. That's really not what is important here. You know what I mean? Again, we should come down to, has your government succeeded? Has your administration alleviated the suffering of Nigerians over the last, your party in fact, has your party alleviated the suffering of Nigerians over the last, 12 years? Or thereabouts, 12 years or not? And that's the question that we should be having, not whether or not it is our turn. How did you put it? No, that's not what the issue is. The issue is, are we seeing the effects of your administration or not? And
Emilokon was for 2023. I don't know what this is.
Well, if you take it to a zonal thing, it's still the same argument being made today. It is our turn. Do you understand?
2023 was my turn. Now it might be our turn.
Our turn.
Well, again, like I said, that was the argument for the movement 2011. It was our turn, and it wasn't given. You understand? So if it was good for the goose then, it should be good for Ghana. Exactly.
Okay, so I think this is definitely part of the things that has held us back as a country, the whole entitlement mentality. But then I also share your sentiment when you said we should look out for leaders that will be able to come prove that indeed they can handle Nigeria, instead of looking at big names and big faces and all of that. But at the same time, it's called politics for a reason. We don't expect the Peter Obi to come tell you this is the solution to Nigeria. I mean, why would he not want to be a president? Because it will look as if he's giving expo to the current to his opponents. So most times I feel like they reserve the secrets to move Nigeria from point A to point B until they are able to take on power and become, that president they want to be. Do you also share that sentiment?
I think that's a cop-out, right? We've had several elections, right? where we have reached that point of where you had tell us your manifesto, right? And we haven't yet.
So we had Peter Obi share his manifesto even at 2023. He came out to say, "This is what I'll do." I think he was open for a presidential debate more than the other aspirants then in 2023.
But the candidate Tinubu as a Democrat was also did his. The only thing was his was exclusive. He had his with business executives and captains of industry. It wasn't part of the conventional universal debate. But everybody had to pitch their ideas. So
we need to have it as a norm, because we see these things happening.
And make it traditional the way you have in Europe and the US.
Exactly. So at that point you get to know, or Nigerians indeed will get to know what you can offer.
Right.
And at that point they can decide to change their mind.
And weigh the options.
Yes, weigh the options, because at the end of the day, it's still your political party against another political party. Despite the fact we've gone through primaries and we have emerged, but we still ultimately decide who becomes our president, takes on the presidential ticket or becomes the president. So I think this very point of yours will be driven, or would also, I would say, we move it forward. When we're done with the primaries, and then we get to know what each party or what each candidate gets to offer, maybe through a presidential debate of some sort.
Exactly. I think the issue, the component that's missing in all of this are debates. Do you understand? Because everybody comes up and usually you hear 7-point agenda, 11-point agenda, but it stops there. Let's scratch the surface a bit deeper. Do you understand? And the only way we can do that are through debates. Let us sit down and let us hear this individual that's claiming these agendas. Let him explain. Let us know that you actually understand these things properly. Do you understand? And you can defend it against somebody sitting across the table from you. Then we now, as Nigerians, as we're sitting down watching these discussions, we can now make an informed decision. We hardly get to make those decisions because everybody runs away from that debate. They just throw out these agendas to us, and it's the same things that have been going on since 1980 something. We will bring you light. We will bring you this. Let's even stick to light now, and the failures of the economic policies that both leading parties have been running since their PDP for 16 years and now APC for 12, right? A privatized-led economy, right? Take NEPA, that was privatized under Jonathan, but still under PDP, created by Vice President Atiku, right? You look at AEDC today and all of the other privatized institutions within the electoral reform and whatever the privatization, right? We are suffering with high prices for electricity that we're not even seeing, okay? The president recently declared some kind of bailout for these companies, right? What is that telling you? It's telling you that the companies that are running these things are either lack capacity or just basically incompetent enough to do it properly, right? So what is happening today? That bailout, who's paying for it? It's me and you, all right? But when it comes to the profits and the dividends of those companies, me and you are not seeing the things. So they have socialized the burden, the debts, but they are privatizing the profits and dividends. So explain to me how that policy works for the average Nigerian. Doesn't. Do you understand? So again, give me that opportunity. If you believe in this thing so much, have the gumption to come and sit down with me and let us debate the issue. Let us talk about, like I said, the merits of this your capitalist-led growth as opposed to my socialist-led growth, and which one actually is more impactful to the Nigerian people and which is not.
Well, let's talk about defections. What is your opinion, when political leader moves from party to party? For you, does it say anything about the integrity of such a person, or does it matter? Really?
As to the integrity of such a person, one of my secondary school classmates referred to me when I was now talking about Atiku and how he keeps jumping from party to party. He said, "Hey, are you not also like that?" And I was like, "No. I was in ASD, Alliance of Social Democrats." So notice the name, Alliance of Social Democrats. That was my party until INEC deregistered us, in which case I now jumped to the only party that still had the ideology that I believed in. Okay?
And that's the PRP.
That's the PRP. And I'm there now, and I'm there irrespective of the, so for example now there may be, with every election, there will be people who are aggrieved. Okay, so let us say that some people within the party were not happy with Baba Ahmed's election as national party. For me, he is my tri-party chairman. Okay, thing I can do is have discussions within the party to say, look, when you go out to speak on behalf of the party, please focus your attention on telling Nigerians what we stand for, what we hope to do to change people's lives. Don't go out there and be quoting people, spend all your time saying, please come to PRP, please come to PRP. That's not what we need. We need people to understand that we are it has what we call in Talaka, the downtrodden, the poverty-stricken. That's what that party was essentially created for by Aminu Kano, our ideological founder. Okay? Speak towards that. Don't speak towards the irrelevance of who comes in and who. So, okay, now, NDC now, a party that I had not heard of prior to Obi and Kokoso jumping there. But you see, when you talk about integrity, I'm not so much saying they lack integrity for jumping. We had a discussion with you in one of our previous issues that the Constitution, right, does not allow for independent candidacy that says you must join a party before you can participate in our democracy. That in itself is the flaw right there.
And it needs to be rectified.
That needs to be rectified. Do you understand? So again, we spoke about people with movements. I told you then that if independent candidacy was allowed, someone like Ponkoso, someone like Peter Obi would now probably have more of an impact than even the president. Because the president, really, do you have that much support across the nation, or is it your money speaking for you? Which is why, again, referring to one of our previous interviews, I said we're not really operating a democracy in Nigeria. We're more operating a plutocracy. It's about the government of the rich and elite, do you understand, as opposed to a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
So you don't have any issues at all with you think our Nigerian political space gives room for defections?
Of course, okay. Because I mean, look at Peter Obi. Let's not even limit it to someone like Atiku. Peter Obi, APGA, Labour Party, ADC, now NDC. Do you understand? It doesn't show consistency. Do you understand? You should stay within if your party has an ideology that you actually believe in. Do you understand? A Republican in America is a Republican, irrespective of whether his candidate or his person won or not. He's not going to jump all of a sudden to become a Democrat just because a Trump won over a king.
That's basically because it's just there are two major parties. So it's either you're for it or
that's not so much that. It's about that they are based on ideology. For example, let's go to the UK where there are more parties, right? If I'm about the environment, I'm with the Green Party. Right. It doesn't matter whether we win, we are the majority party in the House of Parliament. If we are only 5 of us in the House of Parliament, we are here to speak for one issue and one issue alone, the environment. That's what we stand for. And the more we speak to that, and the more we are rigid and stable in our we are in our convictions, the more we eventually start to pull people. But if you're always jumping here today, here tomorrow, then again we are back to personality-driven politics rather than policy-driven.
We should also consider our environment, right? Our policies, everything that surrounds, political parties. And you started by saying, there are things that we really need to review when it comes to political parties in Nigeria. And we cannot compare where we are onto democracy with other countries you have mentioned. So if I've not gotten it right, in the party politics, where a certain candidate can emerge basically because he has a lot of money and all of that. If we have not been able to address such kind of systems in our political parties, do you really think it's fair to say a political aspirant should, stick to party rules, regardless of how, they are free to express their interests in that party, whether it would be whether it will be valued, whether it will be even taken seriously if that individual is not meeting the requirements, in the sense, I mean, when I say requirement, I mean requirement of that party.
Again, it all depends on, it boils down to our own expectations, okay? I would use again the word cop-out for your analysis right now, because how do we then develop? If every season, right, election cycle, we are coming up with new names, new acronyms and all of that, people are jumping from, then how do we end up where these developed countries, these developed democracies end up? Do you understand? Because we are always, there's no, like I said, PRP, you will always say, oh, Aminu Kano's party. Do you understand? Everybody that's there is there for a reason, because they believe in that ideology. Whether or not we have made it as a party in terms of mass
every party seems okay until you start they gain center attraction, and then that's when you now start to see the lapses and the loopholes and maybe the fracas begin to emerge. But every party, before we knew the ADC, we have never known them to have issues. You get the Labour Party too, it was all peaceful, calm, until we had the likes of
until when celebrity status kept.
So when the PRP now begins to attract members like prominent political figures, how are we sure that we'll not see members defect?
But that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Do you understand that as long as we continue to rely on individuals, political heavyweights, and the names that they bring to parties, as opposed to, all right, you want to join the PRP? Do you know what the PRP stands for? Are you willing to come and stay under the umbrella of what the ideology
go through the ranks,
or are you just coming here to say, I am Peter Obi, I have entered this thing, and therefore no? Then you are destroying the fabric of what that party stands for. Do you understand? And then after 4 years, you just jump like now. I think that issue was actually raised within the General Assembly group of the PRP. Somebody mentioned, we hope Obi joins us.
Yes.
And somebody made the comment, a person that destroyed Abga, destroyed this thing, everywhere he goes, he just creates rancor and leaves. Why would you want someone like that to enter our ranks? And I did a thumbs up to that comment because clearly that person has his thinking cap on. Do you understand? It's not about the personality you bring. It's about what evil comes along with you. Do you understand? What are the ills that come with this your personality? You understand? And in that personality, is it aligned with our ideology? What do we stand for? Does he come in to align with that policy? Dati Ahmed, Baba Ahmed's junior brother, Vice President Peter Obi, recently defected to PRP, right? And I was glad when I read his interview that he said he wasn't here so much to run for presidency, he was here to support the party, and I applauded that because again,
is it not possible he said that tongue in cheek?
Possibly. Do you understand? We wait to see whether that is in truth or whatever. Do you understand? But again, let's come back to what I said earlier on as to it's not so much who is president. It's about where do you make the most impact? Okay? And I made that comment within our group. I said we should forget the executive and winning presidency, state governorship. We should try and take majority control of the legislature because that is where laws are made. That is where we can now impact our policy. You understand? If we have the majority within the legislature, we can now actually push our agenda, our ideology forward. Today now, if you go and win 6 states, you understand? Let's even say you win the presidency, right? But it's an APC-led National Assembly. Have you really achieved anything? You're a lame duck president. You will be a lame duck president for the next 4 years. Do you understand?
Why is that?
Because the National Assembly will not approve anything that you throw their way. Whatever agendas you pass in as a presidential bill or whatever coming from the executive, the National Assembly will simply be doing backhand tennis with anything that you throw their way. Because isn't that why you have stalemates even in a developed democracy like America? That's where you have a near government shutdown. Where the executive and the legislature cannot see eye to eye on a particular issue, and it effectively brings the government to a standstill. Do you understand? So understand the power of those 3 arms of government, in particular those 2, right? Because those are the judiciary aside, right? Let those 2 arms of government, if you ask me where your concentration should be, it should be in the legislature, both on federal and state level.
Now let's talk about election fairness, right? I believe that our electorate or our leaders, right, have gotten to that point where they know that there's so much awareness in the system. Most times, APC is not campaigning. I want to believe that they're not just campaigning for, presidency. They are not just pushing for presidency. They're also trying to carry every single political position, along with them. Talking about the state governorship, House of Rep, Senate, and all of that. There is also a strategy because, like I said, Nigerians are more aware. Sometime in 2023, some leaders, some aspirants emerged, maybe because of the bandwagon effect that came with the Labour Party and all. We saw some Labour Party positions taken, a few of them. But our Nigerian politicians are at that point where they know that there is so much awareness in the system. Do you think indeed that it's a political system or an electoral process that can be trusted? Can I go to the ballot at this point in 2027, cast my vote, and be sure that my votes will count with where we are right now?
That remains to be seen, because the umpire of that, the deciding factor is INEC. Okay.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I think if you were to take a poll on Nigerians' confidence in INEC being impartial, INEC would fail on that grounds. You know what I mean? Because there's a sense that whoever is the executive, whoever is the president, controls all, not those kinds of things. I'm able to dangle allocations in front, state allocations in front of governors and stuff like that. So there is so much power that rests with the executive that fairness, that confidence that as citizens, if we vote, our votes would count, isn't really there. It's not exactly.
So do you think we're focusing on that enough? Or do you think we're distracted, with political figures rather than the political process, the electoral process itself?
100%. Like I said, if that is the only discussion we're having, personalities rather than policies, then you've answered your question right there. Nigerians we're not being fed with the right information for us to discern I should go left or I should go right. Right now we're just sitting down and watching political heavyweights dancing and jumping from party to party.
Well, Nigerians have also given their shot to protesting, calling out the Senate, calling out the Senate leader, talking about electoral fairness. I remember a protest that also went on during the whole push for election real-time transmission of results. It was turned down by the House for reasons around, network glitches or not having stable network. So this is a conversation that is still ongoing. And I feel like, okay, a lot of people decided to take that break because I cannot keep acting like a madman. I'm talking, nobody's answering me. I will keep talking. So let me just look at credible personalities that can even defeat the current, the ruling party right now. And I feel like that is where Nigerians are at this point. Not necessarily taking, aback from the realities or wanting someone that will come out and tell them indeed what they can do. But the consolation is when we get a good person first, then we can talk about that.
Didn't we vote a good person in Buhari? Wasn't that the general consensus at the time? That we were voting this desire? I think within the first 4 years of Buhari's administration, he had lost probably most of his northwestern supporters. Do you understand? By the time the man died, unfortunately, you saw the kind of the sentiment about even in his own zone. Right. You know what I mean about him. So if it's about a person, we will always miss the point. We will always miss the mark.
So what do we do at this point? What active steps? What's the call to action?
We, as Nigerians, we're always looking for short-term goals. We're never looking at medium to long-term goals, okay? Short-term goal, yes, is whether a Kwankwaso-Obi combination is the best viable opposition right now for defeating the president, right? I agree with you. Right now, maybe that is the point where the Nigerian electorate, their development in terms of being able to we need to go in this direction and we need to stick to our guns. I keep referring to people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Their journeys, Mandela, their journeys Mandela's journey didn't start and end with his political machinations before he was arrested. No, you have to look at the entire journey. You have to look at Malcolm X's entire story. The same thing. It's not about just one speech. Do you understand? Oh, I have a dream. No. There was a lot that came before that speech and after that speech. Do you understand? So we have to have resolve in where we want to go and agree and understand that is not going to be an overnight success. Okay, if we're going to be ideological in our thinking in terms of how we decide elections, then we should understand that it's not going to happen in 2027. It may not happen in 2031. It may take 10 years. It may take a generation for us to make that change that effect. So for someone like me, I keep looking backwards and talking to my juniors behind me that look, this is how we need to change the shift our thinking. This generation above, their ship is lost. They don't have direction. They're only about who is the personality. Like you said, maybe right now that's where we are at our point in development, electoral development, but it doesn't mean that that's where we have to remain. And if we continue to just be about party, jumping from this party to that party, and every 4 years we're having new acronyms come up, and you know what I mean, then we will never get anywhere.
Let's talk about United Tribes of Nigeria. You're the founder. I'm quite curious to know the vision, because it seems far from reality. Having United Tribes. Is it a tribe within a particular state? Or
No. As in, we are a collection of over 300, like we said, ethnic tribes and whatever divisions. Yes, but when we talk about let's talk about rotation. Right? We say north-south. But in reality, it has been northwest, southwest, northwest, southwest, northwest, southwest. The other regions have not smelt the presidency. So is that really rotation? Right? The Igbos talk about being marginalized from the executive power. Bring it down to state level. When I ran for governor in 2019, I realized what is marginalized is on tribal levels down to local government levels. You understand? So United Tribes of Nigeria, what we're promoting is let every tribe be independent. Okay? Every tribe. So for example, when you are now saying, we have the Bolawa, right? Within the 17 local governments of Yobe State, we have, let's say, 3 local governments. That's enough.
That makes you a minority anyway.
That makes us a minority. And that makes sense that we will never, if by right, be able to overcome a Kanuri that dominates both Borno and Yobe states. Okay? As a tribe, they were an empire. The Kanem Borno Empire. Do you understand? So you don't expect a small tribe like the Gola to overcome democratically a tribe. So if it's a game of numbers, for example. However, if we were to change and adopt a system where from federal government, those allocations do not go to the state, where the governor will withhold everything, not even just from the Bolawa, from the Kere, from the Gizma, everybody, right? No, let the allocation come directly to our 3 local governments, right? If we are a sensible tribe, I believe me, in 5 years, those 3 local governments will become like Dubai. So you could literally take a 30-minute drive from the Kere tribe area, control area, in your third world Nigeria, drive through into Dubai for 10 minutes and drive out of the Bolawa tribe back now into Gizimawa tribe control area. And let's say we know what we're doing with those our resources for those 3 local governments. We are Dubai and everybody else around us is lagging. But you see, that gives independence to everybody. That gives that fairness, that equality to everybody. Do you understand? Nobody can scream marginalization again. I cannot complain that my political economic future is being decided by a tribe where I have no say. And we are that backward. We are that tribalistic in this country, whether we like to believe it or not. Do you understand? So that's why when you say it's unrealistic, there's nothing unrealistic about it. It's about having to, that's why I said the legislature is the most important place. Once you have a domination in the Nigerian legislature, you can pass such bills that make that parity across board. Okay?
Isn't that already a reality? I mean, local governments have autonomy in the books.
In the book, is in theory now, is it in practice? You understand? That's why I now credit. That's why I said I credit President Tinubu for that. Do you understand? If you do not have local government autonomy, that is where development is really made. There is no tree in a state. It is in a local government. Do you understand? There is no road in a state. It is in a local government. So as far as we're concerned with the United Tribes of Nigeria, The state level, the state tier should be abolished. It is absolutely unnecessary within our structure. We should simply go from federal to local government, where it goes straight to development, goes straight to your people. Do you understand? And how are we defining those things? It's everybody knows now. For example, the Alaki of Ibaland. How many local governments are under you? I met with the monarch and I asked her a question. It's like 6 local governments. So fine. You come down in UK, it's not ceremonial that the King Charles is the king and the head of government, but in practice, it is the prime minister that administers affairs of the people, right? So your monarch, the people that you as a people identify as your overall thing, that defines your geographical thing and your federal allocation. But when it comes in, no, you elect your local government chairman. If you want to separate it into each local government has its own chairman, fine. If you want to have one person administering all 6, that's entirely up to you. What you do there has no business with what I'm doing in my own state. Do you understand? Or in my own region or in my own tribe. Like I said, if we were to really settle down and not be bogged down by what we already know and not be afraid to think outside of the box, then we realize that no, the United Tribes of Nigeria as a policy, as a mandate, as a manifesto, as a solution to this problem, actually it solves that issue of what do you call it now, this rotation issue as well, because you have completely decentralized who the president is. It's irrelevant. Do you understand? What happens at federal level is almost irrelevant to what happens to me. It's issues of foreign policy now that we need to think about who is the president and how does he now affect us as a nation. But when it comes to internally, that's where, like I said, almost all our problems would disappear.
That would mean taking away the position of a state governor.
Like I said, I don't see the position, I don't see the use of state governors. They are just mini emperors who effectively do nothing other than just lord power over the region or the states that they control. Whereas we have not really seen any meaningful development, because like I said, the development is at local government level. Go to any of the 774 local governments and you see that disparity, do you understand, in the economic welfare of the people.
Don't you think if we have not strictly dealt with corruption, maybe power changing hands would only mean that the new people in charge will now take over from where maybe those state governors, how they used to operate. For example, we have a governor in Abia State that I think is doing fairly well compared to his predecessors. And if we're saying it's the issue, it's the governor that is the problem. How do we have such a governor come, take over power and is able to do more than his predecessors have done? Do we blame the position or do we blame the individual?
Yeah, well, the blame actually lies with the people themselves. Do you understand?
Okay.
You just said now that as far as you're concerned, the governor has done more than his predecessors, right? In every community, if you go, in fact, forget community, every, in Hausa we say Angwa, neighborhood, go to a neighborhood and ask who is a good man in this neighborhood. They will point to this house now. Do you understand? So we know who the good people are. It's just that the system doesn't allow good people to come forward. Do you understand? So until we change that, they keep saying now that God gives you the kind of leaders that you deserve. Do you understand? So Nigerians, we are the biggest problem of ourselves. Do you understand? Everybody has this, and that's that mentality of when I get there, it's my turn. That national cake is for sharing. Do you understand? Nobody is going there with the thinking of how do I change things for my people. I'll give you good examples from our founding fathers in PRP. Aminu Kano, Balarabe. Deals with which they set, do you understand? But when the vast majority, like I said, we live in a society where criminals walk around free, they're celebrated, you have EFCC cases, but you claim you are the one who is the angel and the Messiah. Our society has been warped, our fabric in terms of a society has been torn. So that's why I talked about generational change. You understand? We look at a society right now where the ones coming behind us see no problem with Yahoo boys. You understand? Because the government has failed to provide alternatives. Our industries are dead. There's no productivity. There's no job creation. So they look at the hush puppies and they say, if that is the only way I can go and make it for myself, then why not? Thankfully, industries government had no hand in this, like Afro beats and Nollywood. These were youth-led industries, initiatives, right, that provide opportunities for the youth to jump in. But again, like I said, there will always be that criminal element. And like I said, if you look at the youth and you take a sampling of their thinking right now, they're not thinking that who boys are so wrong. They're saying, well, you have to do anything you have to do to survive. You have people who have current EFCC cases deciding they want to come out and run for Senate and all of that. And yes, there's proving you're innocent or proven guilty and all of that. But still, we are in that society where there are people who are corrupt and even bringing their children into the corruption. So you are now finding cases where this man and his son are being tried for this. You understand? Doesn't that tell you the kind of society and how we have broken down? Before, a man wouldn't want you to know how bad, even if he's trying to do something to feed his family, he would not want his children to know that he is that. But the society has been so that right now they bring you in and there's nothing wrong with it, you understand? So we have a long way to go, and yes, you're right that the corruption is a major factor, but that corruption in itself again comes down to the people. We know who the good ones are. Are we rejecting the bad ones in favor of the good ones, or are we just simply saying, well, since you're the only one who has come out, then you know what I mean?
So let's talk about, you have talked about that. I'd like to talk about, again, your party, the PRP. Now, I don't think I'm obsessed with your party, but I think more than ever before, the PRP, at least in this present scheme of things, is advancing in visibility in some way. The gentleman who leads your party now, Dr. Baba Ahmed, is someone who is highly respected, especially in the North. In fact, I know of people who believe that he's one of the brightest administrators this country has ever produced, at least in contemporary times. But then I've also heard people in recent times who are now placing question marks of some kind over his ability to lead. They say he must have been compromised, given his, if you like, romance with the APC at some point in time. And then you also highlighted in passing a while ago how that he's now sort of marketing your party, open the doors wide open for people to come in, which you apparently are afraid could dent the, if you like, sanctity of the ideology that this party has been able to maintain for several decades and counter. When you look at that, is it your opinion, or maybe your feeling, that the 2027 election and all the drama around it might drop off on your party in ways that are remarkably negative?
Of course. There is no, like we keep saying, the current standard is a personality-led democracy, right? So if that is the case, then you understand why they feel, or that generation feels that it is important that certain individuals are quoted into the party before your party gains the kind of prominence or relevance that it's looking for. And I see it within the party, I see it outside the party, that yes, we are still at that point in our development where it is the personalities that come in that define whether or not you make a mark. Like I said, I am against that. I don't believe that is required. I believe we would make more of an impact, right, with no individual coming into our party other than telling Nigerians how we are going to change your lives. Do you understand? And making those things practical. So, for example, let us take something that the United Tribes of Nigeria has been trying to push. If every Nigerian could donate 100 naira a day towards a social economic plan, right? 100 naira a day from 50 million Nigerians, that's 5 billion naira a day, right? Divide that by 5,000 naira per head. That means we're feeding 1 million vulnerable Nigerians every single day in perpetuity, all right? And it's only costing me and you 100 naira, right? That's 3,000 naira a month, right? Everybody, even the person pushing Bababola, right, can afford that 100 naira a day, right? So if as a party we were to say, you know what, forget even electing us into positions of power, this is how we intend to alleviate your suffering. And that's the only thing it's going to cost you. Now, the only question is now, how legitimate, how transparent can we be in running such a policy, right? If we're changing the lives of 1 million Nigerians every day, is that not, that is impactful policy. That is an impactful party. That is an impactful, it's not about, who is head, who is the...
But I'm sorry, I want to bring up one thing quickly. You know, Priscilla mentioned a while ago, I mean, she asked if this kind of policy is not realistic. I mean, what your United Tribes of Nigeria particularly stands for. But let's talk about this, I mean, there's socialism in a place like Nigeria, for example, which is capitalists inclined for the most part, even though some economists will say it's actually a voodoo sort of economy that we're running and things like that. How do you extricate yourself from the apron strings of the Brazilian institutions like the World Bank, like the IMF, if you say you want to run a system, a policy that is 100% based on socialism?
Did they brand IMF on your forehead? No. We were.
That's not how the world works now, is it?
The world is divided into two doctrines, right? There is the East and there is the West.
Right.
IMF, the World Bank, they run the West. They are organs of the West, right? We have, like I told you before, there is the Middle East, right? There is Russia, there is China, okay? These are bodies, or these are countries that are forming. There's even what's the BRICS,
the BRICS,
right? There are alternatives
so you realign
to this. Yes, we have to. We realign. It's that simple. Do you understand? There is, like I said, we were not branded with IMF. When IBB moved us in that direction, were we not somewhere before? Do you understand? So why can't we change direction? If these bodies, these organizations, which we know are just, we just remain in economic slavery to them. These are policies which would never get us out of and put us on our feet. Do you understand? No. Then we have to as a country, if we are really being represented by people who are thinking for the people as opposed to their personal interests, then we have to sit down and have those serious discussions. Is this the right direction for us? We have been trying it since IBB days to now. Where has it taken us? Do you understand? We continue to remain in debt. So why can't we try something else? Okay? Why can't we try alternatives from countries that seem to want to see that development in you? Yes, they are here for resources. But let me understand that. Let's juxtapose the resource grab with our development, and let's see which of these alternatives is the best for us. If it turns out that still being under the use of the IMF and the World Bank is the best model, I'm all for it too. Do you understand? But let's have those discussions. Let us at least open the door to that line of thinking and say, you know what, there are other ways to go about doing this thing. And like I told you earlier on, there's no magic to it. The capitalist red one, yes, it will lead to certain people seeing that growth impacted on them, but individuals and groups.
Right.
The socialist red one, no, it's widespread impact. People would feel the impact of these policies in their pockets, in their daily lives, right? So you have to now take that.
Firms are being sold already now. We're seeing the APC selling. I mean, as I say, market has been very good for the APC in particular. As it stands today, the PDP has already announced that it's going to start selling firms, and the ADC the same. The ADC probably selling for the same prices as the APC. So the market, I mean, for want of better words, is becoming competitive. How much of, if you like, obstacles do these sort of systems, these structures create for people who want to participate in a system where we say we want democracy to be all-inclusive?
One word, exclusionary. They exclude a demographic, particularly the youth, from participating.
But they say they're giving concession, by the way, for the youth, for women, for people living with disabilities.
What concessions?
Maybe 50%.
50% of what? 100 million. Where is, in this economy today, where is the youth?
But they say democracy is expensive.
Why should it be expensive? Because they made it that way. Like I said, we operate a plutocracy, and we have been doing so since 1999. Right, so don't tell me that it's expensive.
But in the US, corporations have to support presidential candidates in most cases. Even I've seen that with the mayoral elections in New York, for example. So does that not say it's expensive, given that we also borrowed it from the United States?
I will give you an example. I saw a video of one Asian guy running for this thing, and he had his bicycle, and he had a little banner that was stuck to the back of his bicycle with his flag and his campaigning. He was campaigning. Do you understand? There's nothing that stops you from doing that. Do you understand? But we have turned it into we are a society that if I were to do that today now, it's not this one.
Isn't that offensive?
So we have already been mentally enslaved, right? And to think that it is only the rich that can lead us. Do you understand? We don't understand that yes, Aminu Kano can come from obscurity, right, and lead the people and show genuine sincerity about what, and then outlive his legacy outlived him. Do you understand? It wasn't about money with him. It wasn't about money with Balarabe Musa. Do you understand? It was about their sincerity to the people, the Talakawa, and that's what they still align to today. But if it's about money, today I'm with you now because you're the guy who's paying my bills. Do you understand? The minute you stop, that's why you see people that are in power, ministers, the day they boot you out of power, the crowd that you see in your house, that very day will disappear. Doesn't that just tell you the kind of sycophantic economic environment that we live in? Everybody is about the position that you're holding as opposed to you. If you are a good person, if you are a genuine person that you did, whether you've been removed from power or not, people will still flock around you. That's what Buhari had at one point. He wasn't in power, but he had that 12 million people who believed in him for so long. Do you understand? Whether or not he performed to the expectations or not, that's not the question. Do you understand? But we have to reorient our thinking in terms of our democracy, in terms of how we elect our people, in terms of what actually matters in an election cycle.
Let's talk about Nigerian youths. There seems to be a divide on the impacts. Like there are people that there was a recent report that said, every generation is an improvement of the previous generation, but for the Gen Z generation, looks like there is a backward, maybe a retrogression, right? I don't know how true that is, but I have also seen that in this very time, this very era, Nigerian youths have been very involved in lending their voice, especially on the social media space. But do you think we have seen progress when it comes to youth movement and involvement in politics?
I think NSAS answers that question for you, where the government of the day was shaking in their boots because the youth rallied around an idea, NSAS. The only problem that we had at that point was the disconnect between the northern protests and the southern protests, right? So the southerners were mostly about the SARS issue, the northerners were mostly about the insecurity issue. There wasn't that cohesion in terms of, the nationwide organization. And again, another flaw, a fatal flaw of that particular protest was there was no identifier leadership to it. You understand?
So amorphous.
Yes, but again, that shows you the power of that group, that demographic. You understand? A demographic which, we go back to what we just said earlier on, are deliberately excluded from politics because they have made it too expensive. You understand? Even within the PRP, I think Balarabe Musa's son, one of his sons, was there complaining about our own nomination form. So, for example, now in my own party, to run for Senate, I think is about just 1.something million. You understand? In comparison to these other parties, that is relatively cheap, right? But it's still expensive. Do you understand? So for me now today, am I thinking 1.something million that I can put towards school fees? Or am I thinking 1.1 million is going to pick up a nomination for that I may or may not? Do you understand? So my family will think, Daddy, that one is you're gambling with. Do you understand? And right now, every penny counts. Do you understand? So you should be making it. So his argument was, this is not a party for putting nomination. This is a party for making it as open to anybody, so that a guy in Kano that has no cover in his pocket, but he's in his community, he's regarded as a good person, can come out and under the PRP make a challenge for a state house of assembly, senate, or even the presidency. Do you understand? We are supposed to be that sort of party. That was his argument, and that's one of the founding fathers' sons making that argument within the party. Yes, you could argue that relatively it is cheaper to run for anything. I think the presidential thing for us is like 20 million in comparison to these other parties, but that's still a lot of money.
So you are giving 80% discount?
Yeah. Okay, don't you think it's time for Nigerian youth to come together and form a party? Don't you think that kind of initiative will make it?
Again, it's about who can unify the youth. You understand? Because we have parties now, youth parties. We have parties that have youth in there.
Young people.
But again, we have parties where you have the young the youth representative is in his 60s or 70s. Do you understand? So we use words, right? But we don't actually practicalize the words. Do you understand? So these parties exist, but are they actually for the youth or not? Do you understand? The youth, we are the largest demographic within the electoral space. In the 90-something million people registered with INEC, you would find that the youth make up the majority. But we are we don't believe in the system so much that most people, whether they have their PVC or not, they are not bothered. They can't be bothered to go out and vote. Like I said, I keep talking to that group, and I say we are twice the number of the people that actually vote. So 30 million, 2015, 19, 2023, less than 30 million Nigerians vote, and those 30 million Nigerians are made up by the people who are in local governments, right, who honestly don't know their left from their right in terms of what policies and what actually matters. They are the ones that 5,000 naira is enough for them to sell their vote for, right? So you now, this 60 million of us that are registered, that we claim we are enlightened, exposed, and educated, but we're leaving our political futures to those people that we look down upon. Really, who is the one that belongs in a psychiatric institution? Now, it's us now, do you understand? Because we have this level of elitism, right? But we're not, because we refuse to stand up and be counted, because we refuse to make our voices heard, like I'm doing here, to ensure that this 60 million defeats that 30, we're not going to get there. You know what I mean? So today now we look at Tinubu, whether he will come back in 2027 or not. Tinubu is going to come back, unfortunately, not because his administration has tried, but because the opposition can't put their houses in order. So you believe he's going to come back? That's what the writing on the wall is. Only God can decide what will happen, right? But in terms of the structures that are in place right now, like I said, INEC is usually controlled by the executive. Look at the defections and how many states now the APC actually controls and the grassroots under them. Do you understand? And like I told you earlier, he has the ability to deploy certain resources. I can set up a commission in your region or in your state. I can decide to withhold your state allocation. Do you understand? Things like that. So there are things that are in Tinubu's possession right now that indicate that more than likely he will be the president in 2027. But like I said, that is more to do with the opposition's inability to form a united front than the actual administration's successes over the last 4 years.
Incidentally, like we've always said, and we mentioned that again in the course of the program this morning, that we can have a viable democracy, one that is admirable, if we do not have a very strong, forward-thinking opposition. But I'd like to thank you, Barrister Idris Waziri, the founder of United Tribes Nigeria, for coming to join us on Global Morning today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And that's all for our program. It's been an interesting and very riveting conversation here on Global Morning. Remember that the views of our guests across all of our programs are their opinions. I am Uyi Agumofwe saying a big thank you to you for watching.
And I am Priscilla Obasi, wishing you